Good afternoon and welcome to Positive Partners. I'm Mike Thompson along with Tom High School.
Good to see you.
And we're going to just talk about dogs.
And who they are. And this is an introduction prior to training. This video covers almost dogs from A to Z, from how they developed from the common ancestor they have with wolves, all the way up to what stages they go through as from puppyhood all the way to their senior years, and their social behavior, and the benefits they have for us. And people used to, in research, totally take them for granted. Why even look into dogs? They're just dogs.
Well, there's so many animals in the animal world that, you know, why did these guys become our friends?
Yeah. Particularly because their common ancestor was we're an upper level predator.
Right, and they're a predator.
And they're a predator. So how do you get two competitors cooperating?
Lazy predators.
Lazy predators. You're talking about us. Anyway, yeah, that's a good question though, and we go in. This goes into it there.
Yeah, kind of a mutual beneficial relationship.
Yeah, and that's what we've had in so many areas, and I think it's just great that people are appreciating more so what dogs do and what their capabilities are, and.
There's only one thing I don't like about dogs.
What's that?
They don't live long enough.
They don't. No.
Especially, I have
Right.
big dogs. Big dogs don't last
Right.
as long.
Right. And there are things you have to be careful about. Like you said with your big dogs, both of them develop bloat. So in exercising your dog, she's, okay, don't let him exercise and then drink a lot or eat a lot. Either pour, it's like, it's like the old stuff you were told before going in swimming.
Right.
Don't
exactly.
go in, certain number of minutes after eating, that sort of thing. So, and then with dogs, if you want them to live longer, take them for regular vet visits. Feed them
good food.
Good food, as good as you can. If the first ingredient says cornmeal, that's probably not a good idea.
No, they're meat eaters.
Yeah.
Sorry, your dog is not a vegetarian.
Well, but they've developed where they can metabolize carbohydrates because they're scavengers, and so they can eat carbs along. If it's on our plate and it's not garlic or onion, they can.
And grapes,
grapes,
chocolate. There's a whole list.
There is a whole list. You're right. And the other thing is with dogs, if you want to keep them healthy, besides feeding them the best quality diet you can, and that is to brush your teeth.
And exercise.
Just
like us.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it, huh?
Brush your teeth. Yeah. Floss. Yeah. Anyway, but my dog likes it when I brush his teeth because he's gotten used to it. And
do you use a toothpaste or a finger thing
yeah,
or a regular
toothbrush and the toothpaste that tastes good to him. So, yeah, he's okay with it. And you can get any dog, and you can use, like you said, the finger things and so forth. There's special dog toothpaste. You don't use, person toothpaste, and it tastes good. There's some liver flavoring or whatever in it, and so that works out. And I'll ask him, you want me to brush your teeth? And he'll wave his paw for it. Yeah, as long as you
gotta
get
start
used to
him
it.
young.
It helps, and I got him when he was 4, but yeah, but
sometimes if you make the treats worth it, that'll do.
That helps a lot.
Where's the payoff?
That's right.
That's what you always gotta ask. Where's the treat? Where's the payoff?
Yeah, and as people, that's we can kind of put a nice covering on things, but that's the question that ultimately usually is people we ask.
What am I getting out of this?
What am I getting out of this? And it could be that we're getting something we feel good about helping some other person or some other cause or creature, but the question is, what are we getting out of it? And so it's fair to let our animals ask that question and make things work for them. Now, as you're rewarding, you don't have to get dog treats and so forth. You can have them work for their food. They're used to that. Just put a third of their food aside and have them earn that during the day. If you got time for that. So let's see here. It's about time to start our video.
Yes,
so
it is.
it's the videos Who Are Dogs? An Introduction prior to training. I hope you enjoy it, learn a lot, and I think it's pretty funny in places too. Here we go.
Hello, I'm Tom Heiskell. I'm the owner of Pawsitive Experiences Training in Portsmouth, Ohio, and this is a story
DDR1
There
play. There we go.
how they developed from a common ancestor with wolves, how they came to be associated and connected with us, how they develop and learn, and how we train them, and how we benefit from this relationship with this very special animal. Dogs have the biggest variety of shapes and sizes of any animal on Earth, and because of their special bond with us and because of the many tasks they perform, we've taken them with us to every corner of the earth. To work with an animal, we have to understand them instead of projecting our fears or our wishes onto them. Very complex living beings, especially mammals, have things they need in common. They all need to be able to feel anxiety in order to avoid danger. They have to have the ability to be aggressive in order to protect resources they need. They have to have a desire to reproduce, a fear of separation, especially during infancy, the ability to form nurturing bonds between each other, a desire to play, and curiosity about their environments. Wolves are canids, and they live in family groups that we call packs. What people have mistakenly called alpha wolves are simply mom and dad. Their leadership comes from their role as parents, as protectors, and as skill builders, rather than from them scaring or intimidating their young. Dogs and wolves share 99.7% of their DNA, and they can interbreed, as can dogs and coyotes and wolves and coyotes. These small differences are very important, so much so that if you leave a dog on their own, they don't become a wolf, and if you have a wolf among people and highly socialized, they don't become a dog. Dogs have genetic differences that make them less fearful and also keep them at a less socially mature state, so they are more or less perpetual adolescents. So how do you go from wolves to the early dogs that more recently became the dogs that we have? An experiment which bred wild silver foxes for 40 years gives us an idea. The least fearful foxes were bred, and in the end that produced a pet-like fox that wanted to be with people, whimpered for attention, had floppy ears, short or curly tails, which wagged when they were happy, and they were more curious instead of fearful about new situations. They lost their musky fox smell, they had changes in their skulls and jaws, and they became multicolored. Dogs have been an important part of our human communities for 15 to 30,000 years, but how did dogs and people get together? We're both clearly apex predators. We saw each other, we hunted during the day or twilight, we hunted the same kinds of game, we both hunted in cooperative groups and sometimes hunted animals that were much bigger than we are and were highly dangerous. But there's no clear idea about how two probable competitors would form a bond and a cooperation with one another. Well, the answer probably is simple: garbage. To avoid injury, wolves were as careful as they could be about when they hunted, and if there was free food around, so much the better. Well, the end result is those wolves that were less fearful around people could stay closer to the garbage that we would put aside as we gathered in larger and larger groups, and then those wolves would have pups that would become less fearful, and they would have pups that would be less fearful. The wolves that were around our communities that were aggressive toward us, we drove off probably or killed. And we probably found it advantageous to some degree to have animals nearby that would alert us when other animals or people were approaching. Eventually, we probably took care of and raised some of the orphaned animals. Because of our similar hunting styles, they probably started hanging around us when we were hunting, and we noticed when they were hunting, and we developed a cooperative relationship that made both of us more successful in getting game. Eventually, we probably started feeding those animals that were most helpful to us as hunters, and from there it was probably not that big a step to being in our homes. Dogs have a sensory history from their wolf cousins. Their noses have 50 times as many scent detectors as ours. Their eyes are much more sensitive to movement because they have a visual strip that detects very slight movement. Their eyes refresh and get new images much more quickly than ours. And they also have a reflective strip in the back of their eyes, reflective layer in the back of their eyes that helps them see in dim light. But don't expect them to see you very well if you've changed your look in some way. Their visual acuity, how sharp their vision is about that of an average 80-year-old person. Also, they don't have red color receptors, so what we think is some bright red object isn't going to really look stand out to them. It'll look kind of grayish or something. Because of their poor visual acuity, they're not going to see something that you can see right in front of them. Why doesn't the dog see it? It's just right there. Well, if it's not moving, they may not be able to detect it because their vision is not that sharp. And if you want them to see an object, make it something that's yellow or blue rather than red. Their hearing goes up to much higher sounds than we do, the ultrasonic range. So they hear a dog whistle, they probably hear all kinds of things going on in our environments that we don't detect at all. So just because we are in a location where it looks to us like nothing's going on and nothing should be catching our dog's attention, there may be a lot that's going on that is distracting to our dogs. A dog's sense of smell is probably their strongest sense by far. They live in a world that is awash with odors constantly. They experience both the past and the present and the future simultaneously in a marvelously complex story. They can tell in the present what is there, the characteristics of what's there. They have specialized sensors that picked up on hormones and pheromones that tell them about other animals. They can tell what has been there. Their noses are so sensitive that within a few paces they can tell whether the animal is going one direction or another. Their nostrils go to separate locations, and so they can tell just with what's on a breeze whether it's coming from the right or their left or straight ahead of them. They can also tell what's coming in the future because the breeze is bringing them sense of an animal or something else that may be at some distance or approaching, and they can tell whether the scent's getting stronger or weaker. Dogs are different than wolves. They mature more slowly overall, giving them more time to become flexible and to develop bonds. Dogs do develop sexually more quickly by about 1 year, sometimes earlier. And wolves don't sexually mature until their age 2 or 3. When dogs do have pups, the male dogs do not assist in caring for the young, while male father wolves are very active in providing for their pups and older offspring and teaching them. If dogs hunt in groups, they do so as a loose group of individuals, each going their own way with their own strategy and not coordinating with each other. If dogs are in groups, their membership is fluid rather than stable. Dogs are uniquely bonded to people, unlike wolves or our chimpanzees, which don't understand our gestures readily. Dogs readily understand when we are pointing after we address them that we're giving them important information. That happens even when we gesture by shifting our visual focus. Dogs do the same thing with us. They'll shift their focus to call our attention to something that they want help with. Dogs naturally look to us for help, and they're very good at enlisting social contact. Wolves are better at problem solving. As dogs became more and more domesticated, actually their frontal areas of their brains, their frontal lobes, decreased in size as they transferred over problem solving to us, and we relied on them for what they're good, especially good at, their sensor abilities and so forth. They have a unique social bond with us. Dogs, like no other living creatures besides other people, selectively look at the right side of our faces for information about our emotions. When they are close, they will seek eye contact, and we both produce higher levels of oxytocin, which is a hormone that is created between mothers and infants and people who are bonded with one another. By the time we get a new puppy, they are already preschoolers. And by 12 weeks, they're starting the equivalent of their school-age years. Their school-age years continue until they reach sexual maturity or their dog teenage years. And that can happen between 8 months, sometimes a little earlier and sometimes a little later. Typically 8 to 10 months in medium-sized dogs. Dogs reach their socially mature adult years by the time they're 2 or 3 years old. Smaller dogs may get there a little sooner, and older dogs a little later. Dogs become senior citizen dogs sometime after age 7. Younger dogs may be between 10 and 12 years. Here's what you need to know about the different stages. In the earliest stage of puppy development, when they're with their moms and their litters, the quality of the mom's health, the mother and father's genetic makeup, their health, how much quality stimulation the puppy gets, and what kind of stress level is in the environment, all matters a great deal. So if you have the luxury of getting a puppy from a breeder and choose to do that rather than to adopt a puppy from a shelter, those are the kinds of things you really want to look for. The preschool stage, when we get puppies typically, is the most critical stage for a developing puppy and their later life as a dog, because they're learning how to get along with their own kind, how to adapt to changes in the environment, how to get along with people. And by age 8 weeks, they're ready to learn in a way that is similar to an adult dog. It's just that their attention spans are much shorter, but they are ready to soak up information. What puppies learn and develop in this stage will inoculate them against stress and later behavior problems to a significant degree, and that's why the American Society of Veterinary Animal Behavior strongly recommends taking puppies to a well-organized puppy socialization class at this stage. The window for giving puppies this early inoculation and help with being flexible and adaptive with changes in the environment starts closing at 12 weeks and is pretty much closed by age 16 weeks. That's not to say that you can't make progress with an older puppy. It's just that that early advantageous stage is gone, and now it's going to take more work and some more deliberate planning to help your dog puppy get a good foundation a little later on. During this early phase, maybe between ages 8 and 10 weeks, there can be an early fear period where puppies are particularly sensitive to becoming frightened by new things. So what you want to do is expose puppies to new things, let them approach and get comfortable with them, have them learn some behaviors and do some fun things around in the presence of new things. Don't push them into something new. Don't just tell them to put on their big boy puppy pants and get in there. Let them get comfortable. Take them back a little further in terms of distance, so they're at a location where they can look things over and check out what's going on. With your puppies, you want to teach the kind of behaviors you want to live with for the next 10 or 12 years. So you want to reinforce quiet behavior to begin with, calm behavior, sitting, eye contact, liking to be near you and liking to interact with you. You probably don't want, even if it's real cute, you probably don't want to be reinforcing as a first thing barking or jumping up on you or pawing you or those kinds of attention-getting behaviors, because if you start reinforcing and rewarding that kind of thing, even though the puppy's small and cute, during the next stage, which we're going to talk about, their teenage or adolescent years, that kind of behavior as they get older and stronger and more determined stops being cute and starts being a problem. A well-organized puppy socialization class is also going to help you through the early kinds of things you want to get done, like house training and getting your puppy to focus on you, having them learn take it and drop it, getting them comfortable with people being around their food bowl, having them learn basic behaviors like sit and stay and so forth. As well as the kind of socialization stuff that inoculates puppies against subsequent behavior problems. All these things can be taught with success reward-based learning. I do want to recommend as a resource the book Puppies Start Right by Kenneth Martin, who's a board-certified veterinary animal behaviorist, and Debbie Martin, who is a certified registered veterinary technician in the area of behavior. Puppy socialization classes at Pawsitive Experiences training are based upon the program that the Martins developed. You want to keep socializing your puppy and doing foundation behaviors as they get older. You know, if you just have the dog inside, they're not exposed to other environments and so forth, their socialization will slip. You want to keep them practicing doing foundation behaviors. If by the time your dog is a teenager and they're a little bit over the top and out of control, you want to get them involved in a reward-based, success-based training program. Really, shock collars and forceful kinds of methods are truly not necessary for teaching basic foundation behaviors and almost any behavior that you want to have for a pet dog. As puppies reach their teenage years, of course, with the flow of hormones and just getting older, they're going to become more determined and a little more creative about how they do things, and some of the things that they do may not change. It's just that they're older and bigger and stronger. And so some training at that point can help you put things back on track. By this point, you might also need to be thinking about how you're going to get some energy burnt off, and a good, competent trainer is going to have some good suggestions for how you can do that. Hopefully your dog's adult years are ones where all the work you've done is paid off and you get to have an enjoyable relationship with your dog. if training somehow just got missed or something's happened, all kinds of things can happen to dogs. They can have all the kinds of problems, emotional or behavioral, that people can. There's still help. A board-certified veterinary behaviorist, such as the ones at the Veterinary Animal Behavior Clinic at Ohio State University, can be a real help if there are severe problems. As dogs enter into their senior years, they can have the same kinds of physical and sensory problems that we people have, so take them for regular veterinary checkups, please. There are multiple health and social and emotional benefits from dogs. Children with animals like dogs have less allergies. They grow up to be more empathic and have more nurturing ability. Owners of dogs, pets, have less frequent non-routine physician visits. Their blood pressure can be less. Their cholesterol levels or levels of bad fat can be lowered. They have lower stress levels. That also happens with cats and so forth. People with dogs are more active or more apt to be. Helps have more contact with others. People actually live longer, especially if you're single, especially if you're a man. People are more apt to survive heart attacks if they have an animal. So the benefits are great all around, and the benefits for animals are wonderful too. So my advice is this.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Common Sense, the monthly TV show here on cable channel 17 at Rio Grande, sponsored by Ohio Valley Bank.